And welcome to On the Hash with Hatfield. We got a special guest with us here on this edition of the podcast. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel on the Virginia Beach Sportsplex. Also, check us out on virginiapreps.com. We're streaming on Facebook, on Twitter at X, or I should say on X or Twitter at 757 Sports Talk as well. He's the head football coach of the now two-time state champion Maury Commodores, their second crown in 5 years, a 15-0 perfect season as they defeated Stonebridge last Saturday at UVA's Scott Stadium in Charlottesville. We say hello to Coach Dyrri McCain. All right, so you got the joy. You're ready for Christmas, Coach. It's 10 days to go. So here's the biggest question. Have you got any Christmas shopping done yet? Because I haven't, and I need some advice and tips from my families and friends and people like that. I don't even know where to go unless I get gift cards for everybody.
I'm not even close. For me, it gets so busy with the season that I have to do Christmas shopping here and there. So I might pick up a few things in July, might see something in August, might see something in September when I'm out somewhere. So got a little bit done. I think I'm gonna get a little bit more done this weekend and try to hound on it. But I try to do the best I can.
Yeah, that's why I get the bag of gift cards, and then when it comes to December 24th, and I forget to get the little niece or the cousins or somebody something, I'm like, all right, they're gonna get this whether they like it or not. Ice cream, they can't complain about free things like that. Let's talk about your football team. I know the last couple of years we spoke about it. The heartbreak at Old Dominion, losing to Stonebridge in 2021, Highland Springs in 2022 at Old Dominion. In fact, I know in the summertime, you all thought, as did I, the state championship game would be held at Old Dominion in Norfolk. It got moved to UVA in Charlottesville, but you were all laser-like focused the whole offseason about, it doesn't matter what happens. We win them 100-0 or 1-0. Even if you were to lose a game, it's all about getting to that date, December 9th, state championship game. So all that hard work, blood, sweat, and tears that goes towards it, when you finally get that done Saturday, I wrote this in our thing on Virginia Preps, it feels like there's a mixture of emotions that, what goes through your mind as you get it done. And, it's not always the prettiest. Sometimes it can be ugly as you finally get it. And you've had these last few days to exhale and kind of soak it in. What have you been processing through this whole process?
I think the first part of it, it's, like you said, is what we've been working for. Everything that's, putting the focus towards that from everybody. I think that, the guys playing on the field is one thing. The coaches coaching on the field is one thing. And, you think about the people's families that have to know that they'll be away from their families, and just to know that it was all worth it in the end, knowing why, whatever father figure we are to whoever it is, if we're an uncle, if we're a distant father or godfather or father in his own, hopefully those people understood now at the end of that what all that time kind of was spent on doing, and the reward of it. And as far as everything else, getting there on that date was something that was special for us. And there was just so many things that went into getting to that date. And I think that so many people, I think that we said it so much that, everything was about that date and finishing on that day. Like you brought up, just being a 4 we've won 2 out of the 4 that we've been to. And when you get there and, it's kind of, it's like I said, it's a bunch of emotions, man. This has been 7 years in the program. This is the only program that I've had coach for, and it's been 7 years, and you get there 4, which is one in itself. I know most people that don't even get the 1 at all, or, not even win a regional championship. So, when you're kind of going through that process, as you go and you start to get experience with it, you start to understand that it's not as easy as, people want to make it out to be, or just in general, it's not easy. And to do it, and, we did it, and then we lost 2, and then we did it again. So, kind of that range of winning it, you think that it's automatic getting back there. You think that it's automatic things that you do, you're going to win it. You're going to, regardless, you're going to win it. And then to lose to, it really gives you perspective. It gives you a different perspective, and ways that you need to do things differently. And but to come out on top that day was just everything. We'd rather be 2 out of 4 than 1 out of 4. So good to be back at that halfway point.
Well, I know you don't do it for yourself. You do it for all these kids. You mentioned being the father figures. You know, it strikes me when you win multiple championships, it puts you in a different stratosphere, a different class. You're not a one-trick pony, or they happen to get one. You're on that list of teams like Phoebus and Freedom. You know, Riverheads had won 7 straight, different classification. I get it. But even the teams that came up short this past weekend, like Stonebridge and Highland Springs, both scoring 34 points and losing efforts to your squad in Freedom. But you win 2 of these, it's a different feel to it, Coach. For you, I know there's no fear in this whole process, but I know the last couple of years you've had some injuries that have popped up. I know last year before the state finals, Peyton Jones and Kendall Daniels went down. We know Peyton's now at Duke. Nathaniel Booga Knox also got hurt for you, a key linebacker, some integral parts to your team. Kendall Daniels was coming off the injury from this offseason. And then you also had Javon Wiggins, one of your standout receivers, go down. Was that one of the things that kept you're always staying after it because any let up you can get picked off by anybody. It is the game of football. We're dealing with high school teenage kids here. But what were some of the concerns or apprehension things that you had to really check the boxes as far on this journey? Because, you can't have those distractions or get sidetracked from the biggest prize there that's for you here on December, what you got last weekend.
Yeah, I think it's just like it's all part of the process. I think when you through experience of just coaching, you want to be able to learn each year, regardless if you're leaving your season with a win or a loss, you want to find some way to learn and be better. You have to, and I think that's what we've done a good job of as a staff is to find ways to be better and get better each year. It's not about belittling another program. It's not about you know really not about any of that. It's about what do we need to do to be better and how do we get better. And when you add the different adversity and motivation, that just adds another thing to it. But when you add the things of like adversity with the injuries that that any team has faced, you have to know that that's part of the process and that's part of your season. And we've played in December since 2018. So knowing that injuries can pop up, knowing that this can happen, that can happen, it's just part of the experience of knowing that that's the case. So your off-season plan and the way that you plan in August and October and all that type of stuff, you start to plan for those moments just because you know what's ahead. And regardless, and if something does pop up, you've already had a kind of a plan working towards that. I know that I've definitely spoken to some teams, after playing whatever team we played and trying to give them that same advice, especially a team that's kind of new and trying to get themselves to that point or to that stage on a consistent basis. It's something that we've wanted to build and something that we've definitely put a lot of work into building. So we knew that stuff was going to happen. And if you look at even the first part of our season, playing Wise and Springs and Dinwiddie, and even in the Phoebus scrimmage and even Gonzaga way before then, we were playing a lot of those games without, a bunch of the guys that played in December, a bunch. So, trying to find ways of, getting through those games, which those games in the beginning for us were tough matchups. And to not have guys here and there, I mean, I was glad at the way that we came through that stretch because it was without a bunch of guys. And for us, we had felt that before in the previous 2 years and, didn't come out on top. So for us, it's never going to be an excuse. I mean, obviously we want our guys to be healthy, of course, just like any team would. But I think we've just been around enough and had enough experience and been around the block enough to know that injuries can't be an excuse because, no one's going to care. You got to win it or lose it on that date. And whoever's in there has to be ready. And that's how we preach. That's how we practice. And that's how we work. And, you can see it in the last year, like we talked about how Peyton Jones went out. You look at a guy like Melvin Lowe, who really came on the scene later on last season. And then he had a really good year this year, leading the way. So, I trust my coaches. I trust the guys. I trust that we put in enough work to whatever that date is for next year, whoever 1, 2, or 3, they got to be ready.
Before we tackle some of the key individuals here and your journey in winning the championship last weekend at UVA over Stonebridge, Coach, I think we spoke off camera about this the other day that, there's going to be these comparisons made if you finish the job to the 2019 team, obviously, with that group that had certainly some great players with Keandre Lambert-Smith and CJ Beasley and Darian Varner and Tyshawn Granger and Deshaun Peel and this team now. You can delve into those conversations.
I grew up here. I know this town. I know the people here. More important, they know me. As a banker at Town Bank, we become part of the communities we serve. The people who bank with us, our members, know us. When you bank with Town Bank, you'll know your banker. You'll know you can reach us, and you'll know we're here for you.
That's the DQ Cheeseburger Lovers Deal. 2 singles for $5 or 2 doubles for $7 for a limited time. So, how is it? Deal this good speaks for itself, I guess. DQ, happy tastes good.
Treat yourself to a visit to the Drip Bar IV Hydration and Vitamin Therapy in Virginia Beach. Boost your immunity, increase your energy, and promote anti-aging with our personalized treatments designed to ensure efficient nutrition absorption to rejuvenate your mind and body. Come see our chic and relaxing day spa for yourself today. We welcome walk-ins and appointments. Our medical professionals will help you achieve your best health and answer all your questions. The Drip Bar at Lansdowne Commons in Virginia Beach.
As a banker at Town Bank, we believe that people bank with people, not with banks. You're looking for an actual personal relationship, and that's what you get at our bank. You get that person that gets to know you, gets to know your business, is there for you. I think that is what motivates us, what drives us, and the idea that we are trying to serve others and enrich lives, I think is very true.
As you got ready for this season with this team, and as you went through it, through those first 3 tough games you mentioned with Wise and Highland Springs and Dinwiddie, compared to that team, did you notice more things that were alike, more things that were different? And what were some of the things that you saw that you had to tweak as you were going on this process? Kind of fill me in on that if you can.
Yeah, there was a bunch of things that were alike with both teams. I think that the overall leadership, if I really had to like top one thing, and I know I'll speak on more, but just the leadership of both of those groups and that 2019 team, one thing I do like with leadership is that, having a bunch of different styles, you have a guy who really is not going to say much, but leads by example. You also got another guy who probably won't say much, but then when he speaks, it holds a lot of weight. Then you got a guy who's boisterous. Then you got a guy who is, tries to overly get his point across and maybe need help from coaches with leadership. And I think that it was very similar to this group. And kind of in the adversities that they kind of face to in a somewhat of a sense. So, I guess the leadership part, you got like a Kazon Johnson and Josh Powell. You got a Christian Murphy and a Micah Coakley. You got a Kendall Daniels and a Keandre Lambert. You got a Torrey Newkirk and Eric Gibson. So you got those personalities that probably are close to being the same, but a bunch of different mix of different guys who gave different spills with the way that they lead. But the thing that I did love about it is that they were all on one common goal. They were all different type of people, different type of leadership, different type of personalities. But they put it together to put it together for one common goal and be able to lead the team. And I think that was very much so similar. I think that we were missing that the past 2 years with just the overall leadership and what it takes on a daily basis to be a champion. I think we were kind of missing that. And I think that this group brought us back, got us back on track where we need to be. And I think it'd be continued moving forward. And then when I talk about the adversity that those guys face, before I got here, that Maury wasn't a traditional, it wasn't a a Phoebus who's been doing it for decades, or Oscar Smith or Hampton or anything like that. So, there wasn't the recent tradition there to kind of keep things rolling. It was, at the time it was pretty much not where it is now. And even when I played, we were good, but we weren't this. So, so those guys faced that, the losing culture at first. I'm referring to Lambert and Beasley and Varner and those guys. They came from not such successful seasons. And then, we make the playoffs. HC, I think we played River the first year. We ended up losing that. So they got a taste of the playoffs. And then the next year, we go up and play Springs, and it clearly didn't go our way then. And then, we come back and we're ready to go, and the guys were ready to battle and fight. They had been through enough. It was their time, and they were ready to go. And I think it was very similar to this group, and obviously two different situations, because this team right here, the bulk of this group, you got the Fred Johnson, the Josh Powell, Devontae Floyd, Christian Murphy, Melvin Lowe, Angel McClung, all of those guys who played in those games that we lost both two of those state titles. So, and not just on the team, those guys actually played, whether it was starters or time here and there. So they had been a part of it. And for them, it was, enough's enough. 2 years of hurt. And it's time to get it done. So very similar in both of those ways, the adversity of wanting to get it done and the leadership. I think that those were two big things, very similar. The model of the team, where you got a really good offense that we have, and obviously our defense being just as good, in my opinion. All of that stuff was kind of the same. But if I had to pick two major things, I would say leadership and the type of adversity that both of those teams face.
Yeah, I think the leadership piece, which I'll get to with you in a moment, was really shown through in the post-game presser with your kids speaking about your quarterback at that spot, which is such a big deal. And Torrey Newkirk, some of your veterans talking about just his poise as a junior in his first year as a starter after previously playing JV for you. But, you going back to, you mentioned played at Maury, and, the great guys that you, played with and were before you and after you, obviously the Vincent Painters, the Leroy Reynolds, the Cam Chancellors that went on to the NFL, but they didn't have those championships. And I know you guys, you brought that 2019 team with Lambert and Beasley and those guys in Peel, and they had the heartbreak of losing to Lake Taylor. You had to kind of conquer your own city first. I mean, you were obviously an assistant at Northern with some teams under Coach Cotton there and the OC when you had DJ Mack and Kevin Marks and those standout players, and you got very, very close to championship glory. But, Lake Taylor and Hank Sawyer, he's got a great program, and you finally got over that mountain and you beat him pretty convincingly, and you avenged losses like Highland Springs from last year, Stonebridge from a couple of years ago. I think that motivation factor and those kids getting to that next step was a big deal. Speak on the quarterback spot, because going into the season, you knew Newkirk was going to be your guy. We all wondered how quickly would Daniels come back and how he would perform in the big games. But for you and your staff, at what point did you know not only did he have the ability, but had those leadership qualities and had the special dual threat dimension? Because not only had over 4,000 yards of offense, he had only 5 or 6 picks all year, and he ran for about 750 plus as well, and played, I thought, as good a game as you could have in the state championship, even with a couple mistakes, which he rinsed off quickly and kept proceeding in the ball game. That pick, as you know, early against Stonebridge, A lot of kids would have sulked and not been the same from it. It didn't seem to make him flinch one bit. At what point did you all know, either preseason, a game this year, along this journey, that he was a different type of kid mentality-wise to go with the ability on the field?
Well, some of the qualities, it was kind of seen on first sight. Just you think about the quarterback position. You don't play quarterback if you don't have an arm. So, and obviously, unless you're in a run quarterback system where it's a wing tee or whatever the case may be, but a true, throwing quarterback, you're not going to play it if you don't have some type of arm. And from day one, that was visible with Torrey Newkirk, and just going over it through. And he was with us last year, and obviously you see those moments and those times, and obviously he was back up last year, and stepping up into this year, man, his off-season grind was just so legit. And I again, through the interview, when the guy spoke on him after the game, his leadership is it's on another level, and that's why he's special. And I've had some really good ones, even when I was back at Norview, and obviously even into now, some really good ones, and Torrey's special. And it's really not even the arm part, and his ability is one thing. Just who he is, and the everything about him, the way he moves, the way he leads, the way he holds himself accountable, the way he takes coaching, is just it's different. It's different, and knowing that through the off season, the time and work that he's put in, learning, wanting to get better at the game, not even just the system, or the offense that we run, just wanting to be better at knowing the game. He's very much a student of the game. Even some points where, we get into the season and he feels like that he knows the game plan as the back of his hand, just like me. So, he's a competitor. He's a warrior. He's a fighter. He's tough. The guys respect him. I think that was obviously on display in the interview, post game. He's got everything and every tool that you need at that position, outside of his ability to throw the ball and run the ball. He just brings all those intangibles, and we saw that in the offseason. We needed to get him in a couple of situations where we want to be able to create that adversity, and we do that at practice a lot. I feel like that, the same thing with Coach Privet, our DC. I feel like, I go up against the best defense, and not even just players, but the best play caller, in my opinion, every day in practice. And I feel like he thinks the same thing. So, so Torrey's naturally put in those positions in practice every day. But obviously when you're going against other opponents in the 7-on-7 phase of everything, you want to see how the response is going to be when something's not going his way, or when things are slow for us, and when things just aren't happening. You just want to kind of sit back and see their response. And he's always answered the bell, which for me mentally, it means a lot to me. And he just answered the bell. And then we get into the scrimmage part of things. He performed well in the scrimmages, did what was asked, did well, obviously made some mistakes just like any kid is, but for the most part played really well. And then I think of those stretch of those games when you talk about him playing well versus Phoebus and Wise, and then Springs and Dinwiddie, and then into Lake Taylor. The first few games that he kind of got started with, just they weren't games to kind of get going. If what I'm saying makes sense, like they weren't games that you have time to get your feet wet and make these mistakes. Like he couldn't do that. And he didn't have a chance to do that back to back to back to back. So for him to perform well in those games and play well and be poised enough in those crowds, the moments, the situations of those games, just speaks volume to how special this kid really is. I'm glad that he's a junior and that he'll be back. And then you even just fast forwarding through getting to Warwick, a tough defense that, I think at the time I'd only given up 32 points all year or something like that. And for him to come ready to play in ball and he's our leader. So there was no, fear from him and the guys came ready to play. And he also played a good game in that one. And then you get to the state championship game where, for him, like we talked about early on, he threw an interception, I think maybe about the second or third drive, but stayed poised enough to be able to still make plays and do big things. And one of the things that stuck out to me in the game with him was, I would say, two things in that game. Number one, he threw an interception on the second or third drive, like I said, and going into the fourth quarter of that game versus Stonebridge, he had one incompletion and had already had 6 touchdowns on the board going into the fourth quarter. One incompletion, and that incompletion was that pick that he threw to number 3, which is a phenomenal player over there for Stonebridge. So that stuck out to me that, I'm not realizing that in the moment after the game. I'm like, he really only had one incompletion going into the fourth. And the other thing that stuck out to me was, like, I think how you kind of mentioned it, Matt, too, like how he was able to just stay poised enough. There was mistakes happening. There were things that were happening. It was a state championship game, and that team, they got some good players over there too. I mean, give some of them Stonebridge kids their credit. Some of those kids were good, and they came to play and did some things in the second half, and those guys came ready. It's a state championship game, and for things not to go our way, and for this kid to bounce back and not let the mistakes get in the way, or not let how the flow kind of slow down, kind of get in the way. He still stayed poised enough to be able to close us out in that fourth quarter to then give them the ball back without any timeouts in a couple seconds for our defense to finish the deal. So I just think things that he faced with the throwing the early pick and things that kind of happened, and he stayed poised, and that speaks volume to him. Like I said, his teammates respect him, they love him, and I'm glad that this kid has another year, and I think that wherever he ends up going to school past being here at Maury, I think that teams are getting a guy with this kid. Not even just the ability, but his leadership, what he can bring, how he's going to carry your culture moving forward. I just think that this kid's it. 7's definitely it, and we're glad that he's coming back next year.
Yeah, for sure. He's got a lot of ability there and some special qualities that you touched on. And I think you hit on some other thing about the competitive nature you all have in practice with yourself and Coach Privet, Coach Bryce, Coach Tevis, that whole staff you have there, and the offense versus the defense. Maybe in 2018, 2021, your defense wasn't able to get those key stops, and Stonebridge outscored you 17-0 in the fourth quarter, but they were able to, keep them from making this even scarier, dicier. You mentioned just the calmness you had because you've been through everything. You've been through these wars of practice, the games you've played. And one of the things that jumped out at me, and there's 3 different phases kind of your season. You have the beginning of the year, that first part of the regular season, the out-of-district games you have, which you schedule some toughies, and the scrimmages to go with that with Phoebus, like you touched on in Gonzaga. Then you have the second phase, which is your district slate, and end of regular season before playoffs, which is your third and final phase. But in district play, and you outscored people by an average of 74-4 in district play. And I think you had 5 or 6 straight shutouts there at one point. So your defense was able to lock it down when you had to. And early in this game, you didn't let Stonebridge gain the confidence because you got to halftime 32-10. So people look at the last part of the game and they say, well, they scored 17 at the end, but you held them to a field goal there. You didn't let them get an offensive touchdown the whole first half. Had you done that, and it's 32-14 as opposed to 32-10 or it's 32-21, you don't know how things play out. And I think that might be a little bit of the maturity of your group, that not just did you have it on the offensive side of the ball with obviously Torrey steering it with some other veterans, but some guys going both ways, like your Fred Johnsons, your Devontae Floyds, some younger kids stepping up, like Ike Simmons at linebacker, certainly Ari Watford, a newcomer on the defensive line. Then there's other unsung role guys we've talked about, I think, throughout the year that probably don't get enough credit. The Dylan Goads of the world, the Leslie Hineses of the world that did their jobs and didn't let up, right?
Yeah. Most definitely. And even going back to some of that moment or to some of the moments in that game, like you said early on, the touchdown that they did get in the first half of the Stonebridge game was a mistake on our end. Whatever happened with the snap of hitting one of our guys and then it, rolling into their hands. Good play by the kid number 3. I mean, the kid's a stud. I'm not going to take anything away from him. He showed me that he can play. We gave him that opportunity to get on the board. Our defense played well. But again, credit to, the offense and Notori for staying poised enough to even come back again after that second turnover of throwing an interception. So again, but we were able to stay poised from being in all those situations through practice, through the past couple of years of this group. They've been together and facing a lot of this stuff together for a while now. And you look at like you mentioned, the Dylan Goads who, led our team in tackles or Leslie Hines, who's another one on defense that, that people probably don't, give enough credit to. Levante Bond at corner. We feel like he's as shut down and him and Devontae have been starters at corner for us for 3 years. So just the experience that they've, that they've had and the continuity that they've had. Those are some of the, unsung guys to the names that people like to mention on a normal basis with your Kendalls and your Devontaes and your Freds. And then you got McQuavian Morris, who's also had a heck of a year for us on defense. So those are some of those names that, people kind of the normal fan would not mention, but for us, they're huge. They're huge, and we appreciate them. And on offensive wise, kind of same thing. You got your Melvin Lowe's, your Josh. I think even a kid like Josh Powell, I feel like doesn't get talked about enough. I mean, he's super savvy, super unselfish, and again has all the respect from his teammates, and he's definitely going to be a kid that I miss. I mean, Josh Powell is definitely one that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough, and obviously some of the other guys up front. We got a bunch of skill guys and everything like that, but our offensive line, who always comes to show up, and if we talk about similarities from the 19 and this team right here, it's pretty much that same thing. Where our offensive line pretty much allowed those guys to kind of spin and do the things that they do, whether it be running back, whether it be wide out, whether it be quarterback, just off of those guys being willing to do the dirty work and know that they're not going to get the newspaper credit. So, I just think that, like you said, like we do it on a bunch of phases. It's a bunch of different guys. I think we do a good job of team ball. But those guys buy into the program, them guys buy into each other, and they understand the goal. So, I mean, and it makes it work. And everybody's not going to be the main attraction. But I think the guys understand that. I think if we all stick together and we do what we do, I think that special things will happen like they did on December 9th and things to happen moving forward in the program. I see us doing things moving forward.
Well, and I mean, you mentioned it with Josh Powell, who's I think one of the biggest X factors in the state, Coach. I know he didn't have a catch in the state semifinal game, but I remember writing up our preview saying he's going to make a play in this state championship game. You just knew it because the last 2 years he's been an all-state kid. He's been a return man. He's done so many things quietly because you have so many of these stud guys that get the attentions. When you have the Devontae Floyd, you have the Fred Johnson who's going to South Carolina. You have LeBron Bond who's at a 59-yard TD. I think he's had a touchdown catch in the first quarter of your last 3 playoff games. I know, by the way, he's coming back next year. But you just had a sense that would happen. That's an unsung element. Your offensive line, the unsung element number 2. And the third thing, which I'll get to, and I'm going to show a picture again, which we had in our beginning slideshow of this podcast, was your special teams. You blocked 2 punts in the first half against Indian River. You blocked 2 kicks that were crucial in this game against Stonebridge with, I think they were credited to Leslie Hines and Trevon Cannon, although this picture says Elijah Moss might have blocked it. It sure looks like he did block it as we show it to you on the screen there. I mean, but your guys, but every time someone's looking to kick the ball, and I imagine this goes back to the competitive nature that you all brewed out of them from the summertime to game week to lock it up there as you kick it off. They want to be just as good as the offense and the defense, don't they? Whether it's Andrew McClung, your kicker, or your guys on defense or special teams, the names that are trying to block kicks and return punts or kicks. You had 2 kickoffs to begin the playoffs for scores against Kickatin and Ansman. So they want to be just as smart of the juice, if you will, to your success.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of pride on it. And for the block of that game on the field goal block, it was Elijah Moss. The guy who picked it up was Trayvon Cannon.
There you go. Okay.
So credit to Elijah Moss on that block.
And credit to Ray Williams, Jordan Williams' dad, our great photographer, for getting that shot there, by the way. So
yes. But yeah, as far as that phase, it's taken very seriously. Guys take pride in it. Guys understand that is the phase of the game. We treat it literally the same as we do offense and defense. I mean, through camp, through practice, through when we watch film, it's even. I don't think we third wheel special teams. But that's credit to the guys having pride and wanting to make a play and understanding that it can be a difference in the game. I've been on situations both as a player and as a coach where it had cost us games. So, for me as a coach, shame on me for not having the guys ready or not having the staff ready to take it serious enough, knowing that it's cost myself as a player, a championship or a shot at a championship or even as a coach. So, but the coaches, same thing. I mean, they understand what's going on. They, there's a bunch of coaches who have their own special teams, so they take pride in it. And I just stay in my lane and make sure everything's flowing right. But those guys, take lead of their special teams, and shout out to those guys who, did things to win us games this year. And I know they'll try to up their level next year. I'm pretty sure that they'll be waiting to hear who the special teams MVP coach is this year. I'm still trying to figure that out and gather the data for that. So, their battle was trying to win, the MVP, coaches MVP. So it's going to be a tough one. So when we have this ceremony, they'll find out. But I'm proud of the way that the coaches prepared and that the way that the kids came to execute in those games and those moments to do that.
Be honest, when the season started and your goal is to get to December 9th, in the back of your mind, even though as you see the games unfolding and you keep an eye on what's going on, even though you're focused in your lane, like you said, what next game up, I don't care if, they're talking we're going to see Green Run or Indian River or Warwick or Kings Fork or this team in the state, you're worried about that. But did you sense that you probably would see Stonebridge on December 9th, knowing that the history every couple of years, you two teams seem to run into each other, and knowing that that's probably in a lot of ways, I mean, your last 2 losses, you avenged one of them to Highland Springs from a year ago in that game at Powhatan Field. I knew your kids would play with their hair on fire on that one, and you got it done. Did you have a sense, even as Stonebridge was at one point 1-4, like that's probably the team that's going to be waiting for us at the end of the road? We just got to get to the end of the road.
Yeah, and in some sense, just like you said, like everybody's saying these matchups, and from anybody from first it started with Warwick and wanting to see this and wanting to see that, and for us, we had to make sure that we were winning to get to that game, and we can't worry about what somebody else, whether they want to win, lose, be in a game, not in a game. We couldn't worry about that. But as far as Stonebridge goes, I mean, you kind of sense it. I mean, if you look at the past, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would say the past at least 10 state championship games in Class 5, it has involved either Maury, Stonebridge, or Highland Springs in some way, form, or fashion. So the fact that, Springs is up in 6, you had the sense that Stonebridge would probably be coming out the other side. That was out of our control. We were worried about just getting to that date and who we were going to see. But, for us, just like when it kind of happened when it went down, when we played Indian River and we got past that game in the state semis, we wanted it to be Stonebridge. Make no mistake about that. That's the opponent that we wanted. We didn't care about whoever was coming out on the other side, but the fact that it was them is exactly how we wanted it to play out. And the fact that we were able to be on the 9th and play that team out from the other side of the bracket and get it done, just put everything in the icing on the top. So you don't really pay attention to how their season first started to play out. Again, when you're dealing with some of the traditional winning programs in the state, just like how Highland Springs and even Stonebridge and even those are the only two that I can think of right now. But taking early losses for teams like that, and even us, I mean, we took early losses the past 2 years, but the winning teams, the teams that know how to do this thing on a yearly basis, that they're going to find some way to get back in there or to keep themselves in there, because nobody prepares for September. And I know those programs that I mentioned, and us included, we don't prepare for September. It's preparing for December. So whatever was going on then, you just know that that some of those same programs are going to be in the mix when that time comes, just because of the tradition, the way that are us and the way that those other programs kind of do things.
Sure. In our last few minutes here with you, we appreciate you coming on this edition of On the Hash with Hatfield on our podcast. Like, share, and subscribe to our Virginia Beach Sportsplex YouTube channel. Also check it out on X or Twitter at 757 Sports Talk, VirginiaPreps.com, and streaming on Facebook, as well as we're going to be on IG Live, I think, soon too, now with our new elements that we are adding. But Coach, you are just 35 years of age. You've got two of these things, which is unheard of for someone this young to have the championships. And I know you're driven to keep it going, keep it, moving forward. And who knows what's in your future as far as three-peat potentially at Maury. I've said publicly, and I don't think you might shy away from it, is that I think college coaching could be in your future one day. You can address that certainly. But I remember you as the guy that was the rivals list, as you at least, as the 5'9", 173-pound receiver. You can dispute that or not. Class of 2007 that signed, you're shaking your head no, that signed with Hampton University as part of a dynamic duo with James Butts that played for the Maury Commodores back in the day. What does it mean to you, though, to win not back-to-back, but to win two of these things, 15-0, the way you did with this schedule that you played this year, and to be talked about? Those discussions and conversations and debates can rage on whether people put you in the top 5, 10, 15. But bottom line is your statistics, your accomplishments this season, this team stacks up with some of the best in VHSL history. What's it mean for those things to be said your way, even though you can't bask in it, you have to be moving forward to the next chapter? There is a little bit of, I guess you could take some satisfaction out of it, right?
Yeah, I think it's both ways. I think you could take something from it. I think that, for, I guess, the first part of it for me in the top mention thing, I think that when you start mentioning it yourself, when you have to speak on yourself, I think that that's just not in me to do. I don't need to speak on myself, and it's not about me. My coaches will have that conversation, or other people. As long as my players feel like that I'm one of the GOATs or what, that I'm good with that. That's what I want to be. I want my guys to always know that coach would do anything for them and it's here for them, and all the accolades that kind of come with that. It's all good, but it's something if we're winning two at this point, and none of the guys feel like that you're the GOAT or that you're one of the best or top of all time or whatever. For me, it's very important. You haven't won with
them yet, right? Yeah, they haven't won one for a year, right? Exactly. I get it.
Yeah. So as long as I'm topping my players' mind and in their conversation, I'm good with that. Anybody else, rate me where you want or rate what it's been done, however you want. But my kids is the ones that matter to me, honestly. How they feel about the ranking or where I'm at. Outside of that, with the program to Have to, man. Again, like, Maury, it hasn't been in it. It's not the tradition that a Smith has or a Phoebus has or Hampton. Those teams who have just done it over and over and over. So the fact that we're kind of right here, right now, kind of one bringing it back from when it was when a bunch of the Sazio team that kind of had their run and when they were doing things. It feels good to bring it back. Feels good to get it done. It's been 7 years in the program, and out of 7 of those years, 6 straight regional titles. Out of 7 years, 4 of the 7 have been spent in the state title game, and then we win 2 of them out of the 4. So, like I said before in the beginning of this year, I think everything that's kind of been done in the program so far, all of that was just the building stage of what was going on. So, if making 3 state title games and winning 1 is your building stage, then I think we're in a good boat. I think everything from this point is getting the benefits of what's kind of built. So now it's about sustaining it, which I think is the hardest thing to do, because I think that anybody can have one good year, but keeping it consistent. And I think that's, it starts with myself not getting comfortable, coaches not being comfortable, kids not being comfortable, parents, anybody that's involved with the program, managers, anybody that's involved with the program, not getting comfortable. If we want to do this again, if we want this feeling again, and for us, the goal is to try to go back to back this next season. We have to do that with losing the comfortability. Not to say that we have it, we just can't let that creep in, because then that's when stuff obviously happens that doesn't go our way. So I'm proud of what's been done with the program, where we're at. To be in number 2, I guess obviously it creates a different conversation, but for me and the guys, for the staff, for the players, and for everybody else, it's how can we get to 3, and then we'll talk about the next past that. So we'll enjoy this process, with the rings, jackets, and ordering that type of stuff. But we'll take into 2, but what about 3? And I think that's where that conversation kind of goes moving forward.
In our last couple of minutes here, we wrap it up here with you. What is next, though? To sort of follow up on that, as far as you, I mean, I mentioned that down the road, I don't think it's anything that you were going to shy away from, that you would be open to the next level if that opportunity was the right one. But it feels like you still have a lot of business that you want to take care of it more. You're enjoying your situation at your alma mater that you like very much, and you've checked a lot of boxes. People said, well, do they play a good enough schedule? You beat some great teams this year. You play a good enough schedule. Certainly a back-to-back will be something that hasn't been done yet. You've won 2. What is next for you in this group? And you do have, 8 offensive starters, 8 defensive starters,
Yeah.
something like that coming back. So you have a lot of the components that are back. I mean, you have to say goodbye to some seniors that were very valuable, like Devontae Floyd, who's headed to Duke, or Fred Johnson, who's going to South Carolina, Jaden Ratliff, who's going to William & Mary. But it's not too shabby when you got 2 of your 3-headed monsters in the backfield, as far as Damari Palmer and Leon Clark come back, Melvin Lowe departs, Torrey Newkirk at quarterback, a bunch of receivers like LeBron Bond, Elijah Moss, some linemen, Watford on defense, Daniels on defense, Simmons on defense. On paper, these guys are going to say we're going to be better than those 2 teams, but they have a lot to live up to.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes back to what I originally talked about, is the comfortability. Like, if these guys want to, carry this and get this train going and go back to back, then they'll do everything in their power to make sure that happens. And I have trust in those guys. I have trust in Isaiah Simmons. I have trust in Ari Watford stepping up. I have trust in, obviously Torrey Newkirk and LeBron Bond and those guys stepping up, because now it's their turn to deliver one. I think that, Fred Johnson and Devontae and Josh Powell and those guys, they did their part. They got us back on track. And now it's up to these guys to kind of keep that thing going. And hey, get it back to back. That's a challenge for us. And I think we're up for it. I think that our schedule is going to be tough again. So, people are comparing the 19 and to this 22 team now, or I'm sorry, 23 team. So, what way can this class now get their shake in the mix of trying to get in that conversation. And I think that's up to the leadership and up to the guys that's coming back to be able to do that. I think that myself and the staff will come back when it's that time, and we'll come ready to work and ready to go. And it's up to the guys, whatever they want out of this situation. It's always been about the players, always. So whatever they want out of this deal and whatever they want out of this year of a team, it's just going to be up to them what they want, but us as coaches to be able to deliver that. And, I feel like that's what's next is, trying to go back to back. And that's going to be something that we work towards after we finish this process of enjoying this one, because we will. We need to. I think that everybody has pretty much earned that right to do that. But when it's time to get back, that's just the hunger of it to want to be back and get there. I think the players will be on the same page. But again, we'll have that meeting. We'll discuss it, see where the kids are at, what they want, what we want to do, and then when it's time to get to work, we'll put together the best plan for this team to accomplish whatever it is they want to accomplish.
All right, before we let you run, we appreciate the time so much here. I've done this in the past with a couple of your stand-up players like Keandre Lambert and Sheridan Jones. I have a rapid fire. I got fast five with a Hatfield if you're ready for it. You ready for it? Quick hitter questions? You ready for these? All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Favorite text or phone call you got after winning the state championship was from whom?
I probably wouldn't say because it's hard to say text because my mom was right there. She was on the 50-yard line, so that was probably the best. I mean, she probably texted me in the process too at the same time, so I probably would say her.
Okay, go with mom. All right, good deal. Who wins the Super Bowl this year? I want to know who wins it. Who's Dyrri McCain's go-to pick in the NFL, which is usually wide open?
The Denver Broncos.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's going. I tell you what, Sean Payton's done a great job turning that thing around. I wouldn't have believed you when they were 1-5, but I tell you what, people that had them, put some shekels on her are feeling pretty good right about now. They're getting hot. How about the college football playoff? We're down to 4. We're down to obviously Michigan and Texas and Alabama and Washington. Who's the last team standing?
Oh man, I think it's a tough 4, but again, man, a guy that I pay attention to a lot. I think he's done it consistently at a high level. I can't go against Nick Saban. I got to go Alabama.
All right, 2 more. You've hit 3, and I'm with him. Him as my pick. 2 more. What is the go-to song? We always see Coach McCain bopping around in pregame. He's locked in with his music. His kids are. What's the go-to? You got to give it to me. What's the go-to tune? You got one. If you got to listen to one song, what's the one song in pregame?
Oh man, I got a couple.
I've been waiting all year for this one, by the way, because I want to hear what's
man,
the tune.
This is tough right here, Matt.
That's why it's rapid to make you think questions.
You probably got me stumped with this one, man. I mean, if I had to say one, I mean, it's definitely something with Meek Mill.
Okay. But so it changes from game to game. You don't have the same list of songs. It's different songs. I take it. Is that what you're?
Yeah, I mean, it's a shuffle list, but it's some songs, and I ask my players this all the time. I'm like, what songs do you absolutely have to listen to regardless of your shuffle? And Meek Mill, some of his intros, and his albums are hits. So it's probably one of those.
All right. I'm not. I've got a list on my YouTube, but I've got like old tunes. Y'all wouldn't want to listen to my stuff. Like old George Benson, Dionne Warwick, all this type, Michael McDonald type people. Y'all be like, what's wrong with him? That's what's wrong with me.
I couldn't.
And
I mean, some of the stuff with the guys, and sorry to cut you off. Some of the stuff with the guys, I try to get with their music and what they kind of like. So I try to get with their style. So, some of their songs, I don't even know the name to them. I know it when I hear it. So I couldn't even give you the name.
Listen, I've heard the same from both my co-host on Saturdays with 757 Saturday Sports Talk, Coach Young, who coaches basketball at Nans River. He tries to stay hip with his kids, which he's an old school guy. He's an old guy. He can't do it. And even our ODU women's basketball team, which I travel with, Delisha Milton-Jones, she says the same things, but her players tries to stay up to date with them. And lastly, have you given Darryl Holly, the number 1 Maury fan, $5 in a soda yet?
No, I'm getting him something better. He's gonna get our championship shirts, and obviously, and he's gonna get a jacket and everything from us. The same thing that we get as coaches. So, I think that he'll appreciate that more than the popcorn and the soda.
good. That's good to know. And listen, he already hit me up for a Virginia Preps Classic t-shirt at my basketball event last year, and I'm sure he'll try to find me again this year when we have it in January at Green Run, because he always loves free stuff, and we love Darryl. So, hey, Coach, congratulations. Wonderful job for you and your team to get this done, 15-0, wire to wire. Looking forward to running it back for you guys in 2024. It'll be here before you know it. So enjoy this off season, as short as it is, and happy holidays, happy New Year to you and your family, and we'll talk again soon. Same
to you, Matt. Thank you.
That is Coach Dyrri McCain of the Class 5 state champion Maury Commodores, our guest here on the Hash with Hatfield. We'll take a time out, hear from some of our sponsors and supporters that make it possible for us at the Plex. Stay tuned right here with On the Hash with Hatfield.
I grew up here. I know this town. I know the people here. More important, they know me. As a banker at Town Bank, we become part of the communities we serve. The people who bank with us, our members, know us. When you bank with Town Bank, you'll know your banker. You'll know you can reach us, and you'll know we're here for you.
That's the DQ Cheeseburger Lovers Deal. 2 singles for $5 or 2 doubles for $7 for a limited time. So, how is it? Deal this good speaks for itself, I guess. DQ, happy tastes good.
Treat yourself to a visit to the Drip Bar IV Hydration and Vitamin Therapy in Virginia Beach. Boost your immunity, increase your energy, and promote anti-aging with our personalized treatments designed to ensure efficient nutrition absorption to rejuvenate your mind and body. Come see our chic and relaxing day spa for yourself today. We welcome walk-ins and appointments. Our medical professionals will help you achieve your best health and answer all your questions. The Drip Bar at Lansdowne Commons in Virginia Beach.
There we go. Now I'm unmuted. That was the celebration out there in Salem with the Radford Bobcats to defeat the Riverheads Gladiators 39-21 to win the state championship. Riverheads had won 7 consecutive state titles at the Class 1 level, and they get it done. It is On the Hash with Hatfield. Before we get to our interview with Darryl Overton of the Freedom-Woodbridge Eagles, we thank Dyrri McCain of the Maury Commodores for stopping by. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Virginia Beach Sportsplex. We're also streaming tonight, or I should say as we turn the calendar from Friday to Saturday here in December. On our Instagram, Hatfield Sports 2K4 for me. We also are on 757 Sports Talk on Twitter or X, VirginiaPreps.com on our front page, Facebook page, the Virginia Beach Sportsplex. All kinds of ways to watch us, interact with us, and we thank you for doing so all season long. It's a little bit of an expanded edition, past an hour for On the Hash with Hatfield. We'll be back on Saturday with 757 Saturday Sports Talk with yours truly and the coach, Ed Young. We've got a special guest we'll tell you about after the Darryl Overton interview before we close up this edition of the podcast. But a couple quick thoughts on the Class 1 and Class 2 games. We heard from Dyrri McCain as Maury beat Stonebridge. Riverheads had a great year with Caden Cook-Cash. And I think this is a common theme with all the runner-up teams. Nobody really should be hanging their heads. I know it stung for Salem losing to Phoebus. I know it stung for Essex falling to Galax. Phoebus Salem, the Class 4 title game out in Lynchburg. Essex, Galax, the Class 1 championship, where literally Galax won as a number 5 seed, 6-4 during the regular season. They literally get it done with a field goal at the end and 2 safeties. No touchdowns. They win a state championship. Congratulations. That's got to sting if you're Essex, who was unbeaten. But I think all your runner-up teams were worthy teams. Even your Class 6, Class 5 runner-ups in Highland Springs and Stonebridge scored 34 points in defeat. Salem had a touchdown and a 2-point conversion on that great Phoebus defense. Peyton Lewis, Chris Cole, 2 All-Americans. Lewis going to Tennessee, Cole going to Georgia. They just lost to a Phoebus team that made an unbelievable play at the end. And Liberty Christian Lafayette. Yeah, Liberty Christian, undefeated year for them. Frank Rocco's team gets it done. They beat Lafayette, but that was a closer game than some, but it wasn't a total blowout. Nobody got embarrassed or eviscerated or destroyed in the state championship. And sometimes you get some one-sided results. And Cook Cash had 106 touchdowns in his career. But Riverheads ran into a team in Radford that was really well-rounded, could throw the ball, and Landon Clark, the state player of the year, as it was announced on Friday, he deserved it. Elon Commit did it on both sides of the ball. He was just tremendous. So as far as our preseason picks go, I got the sheet out right here. People love to give me a hard time about what I get wrong and where I have my missteps. Well, let me tell you, I had Freedom in Class 6, number 1 preseason, Highland Springs, number 2. It finished up that way. I had Maury, number 1 preseason, Stonebridge 2. It finished up that way. I had Phoebus, number 1, Salem, number 3. It almost was that way. I had sandwiched in Dinwiddie, who was the defending state champ. I don't have any regrets about that. Liberty Christian was 4th in Class 3, Lafayette 8th. All right, I had Magna Vista at the top. They were region runner-up in 3D. You could say, I guess, on that degree, but didn't have a bad year. Radford was my number 3, and Riverhead was my number 2. I had Graham number 1, who fell to Radford in the state semis. I wouldn't change that over again. I think they were all pretty close. And in Class 1, it was sort of your up for grabs. We had Honaker 1. They lost in the state semis to Galax, who had that wonderful run. Tedron Tucker running back for them, those kids. Essex 4. So, the higher classifications, it was pretty chalky. Lower classifications, you had a couple mild surprises. Really, the bigger surprise was the only team that didn't go undefeated in Galax. So a job well done for Shane Allen. All these teams, congrats to not just Coach Allen at Galax, but also kudos to Michael Christ at Radford. We saw his kids celebrating, along with Frank Rocco at Liberty Christian, Jeremy Blunt at Phoebus, Dyrri McCain, who we talked to at Maury. Coming up next, Darryl Overton of the Freedom Eagles from Woodbridge. We'll take a timeout, though, before we come back here with more of On the Hash with Hatfield. Like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned.
At CHKD, sports medicine is more than just treating injuries. It's a whole team approach to caring for young athletes. With experienced physicians, surgeons, trainers, and rehab specialists here when kids and teens need them most. Our experts help young athletes prevent injuries too, with advanced training and conditioning programs that keep them in the game safely. CHKD Sports Medicine, where kids are more than patients and we're more than a hospital.
Well, it's everybody's favorite time of year again. Time to prepare to make your annual donation to that infernal revenue service. And if you're like me, you need help. Help to keep that donation as small as possible. So get off your W-2 and call John Maynard at John's Tax Service. 455-6763.
And we're back here on the Hash with Hatfield and our Virginia Beach Sports Talk's YouTube channel, also streaming on our Twitter page and X at 757 Sports Talk and VirginiaPreps.com, as well as on Facebook. Matt Hatfield here, pleased to be joined by the head football coach of the reigning two-time state champion Eagles out of Freedom High School in Woodbridge. What a performance they put on last Saturday up at UVA in Charlottesville, defeating Highland Springs, last year's Class 5 state champ, by a count of 42-34 in a whale of a ball game. We say hello and congrats to Coach Darryl Overton. It's been less than a week, Coach, but back-to-back, it's got to be sweet. That's the goal. That's the mission. You guys accomplished it, and here you are basking in the glory a few days later after the state championship. How's it felt this week? And take me through the whirlwind of a week you've had.
Oh, man, like you said, obviously feels good. I really probably didn't get to enjoy it until I'll probably say Sunday at like 4:30. You know what I mean? Because in the moment you're like the leaders, so you worried about getting to the bus on time, getting the food, getting in and out the locker room, all those things, man. But again, it feels good. It feels great, like you said, for the guys, for the coaches, everything, man. Again, you achieve your goal that you set out. Again, like you said, probably didn't dawn on me till Sunday.
Was there a point when you laid the head down on the pillow late Saturday night or woke up Sunday and you said, wow, it's done, back-to-back, goal accomplished, state championship again? What was the point where you kind of pinched yourself and said, all right, I can exhale? Because there is so much pressure, all you football coaches, your staff, your players, especially when you have a program like yours at Freedom. And there's been a lot of great programs here that have accomplished either the back-to-back or won multiple championships. You guys help us now in Class 6. You look at Maury in Class 5, getting some revenge against Stonebridge. Phoebus has won 3 in a row. We had Riverheads win 7 straight, but there's a lot of good programs across the entire state. Liberty Christian was undefeated. I think everybody that won it except the Class 1 champ in Galax was unblemished here. Take me through just kind of the point where you kind of said, all right, now I can relax, if you will. That relax word is, as I think Aaron Rodgers once said.
Truthfully, it really wasn't until, the last pass they completed and the young man, fell in bounds on the ground to catch it. Then you're like, all right, it's truly over. And you kind of like, all right, we won. So again, probably the same as everybody else. It was that moment. Up until then, you can't ever relax. Again, anything is possible in this game that we play, we love, we coach. So same moment, once, number 19 caught that pass in bounds and there's no more timeouts, no opportunity to get out of bounds. I was able to exhale and say, it's done.
Certainly going into the 2023 season, after you had the end of the 2022 year, you beat Madison rather impressively to win the state championship at Old Dominion, and you had a lot of those components back. Certainly the likes of your quarterback and Tristan Evans, who we'll get to, and Jeffrey Overton Jr. and Carlton Juju Preston, who we thought would not be with you, came back, and some other great receivers, defensive standouts as well, for which I think get a little bit not enough recognition and just due, which hopefully we can do during this podcast. But you go into the new season. What was your feeling as far as expectation level? Certainly you want to go win it again, but you want to have this team distinguish itself from the 2022 team. What was sort of the message and discussions you had amongst your coaching staff and your players as you geared up for the summertime and practice in August and that first game?
Well, truthfully, like you said, just a culture of habit. It's not about trying to distinguish yourself from last year's team. It's about, you got to be the best version of you for this year. And some of the guys, the message was, obviously you're good enough to play at Freedom High School. Now you got to start working on the best version of yourself, and, we'll become a better team. We had some guys that had to step in on the offensive line and fill spots. We had to, guys step in for Kelly Timone, step in where TJ Bush was. Big Juju had to play defense. Jakai Hughes stepped into a full-time role for Kendall Bannister. And then, Maury was able to step in at guard. So the people that we replaced, they're guys that stepped in. We had to find out what we had. And then we have a good team returning. I felt it was important that we played good teams early to kind of make us have to, be dialed up, lock into what we're trying to achieve and, do things right football-wise. So, scrimmaging, Louisa, and then, playing Verona, playing DeMatha, scrimmaging a Dunbar, who won the DC championship, playing Coolidge, who won the, gravy part of the DC championship. So we tried to make sure we challenged ourselves early as a program, as a team, so that we had to do things right.
Well, let's talk about that schedule there, because you go into the season, it's a different schedule than your 2022 team that won the championship, went undefeated, and set a Virginia High School League record for most points in the season. So certainly any discussions about, greatest teams, that has to include that when you set a record like that. But you didn't play Coolidge. You had Verona, which was a game you were sort of cruising, and I watched them the week before against Indian River, 13-0 shutout, and the game got a little close. The score could be deceiving, but they got good athletes, and they fought back, and your kids answered the call. You have that break because you have the DeMatha game, where it starts, it stops, it starts up again. Take me through that whole, because there's a lot of talk in the DMV area, Woodbridge up to DC, about public, private, high school. Did you kind of have to try to tone some of that down with all the chatter, the outside noise, which I'm sure is always the challenge for you all as coaches, to keep everybody not distracted from social media, all the discussion, who's better, whatnot, because you don't want to lose sight of the bigger picture, right? How'd you kind of handle that whole process and that little time frame, if you will?
Well, like you said, it was a different situation because, one, the game came about from us scrimmaging 2 years ago. Me and Coach McGregor got a good relationship, so it came from a good place. This year we was able to make it a game, and then, like you said, you're in it. You're having success Friday night, then you get the storm, and then you're, like, excited about the opportunity. Come back Saturday, you start off well, offensively, defensively, and you take the lead. And then you're right back. So there's a lot of peaks and valleys as far as emotionally for us. I do believe, like you said, it's always a misconception that, everybody at a private school is better than everybody at public school. And just that's not true. Every player at a private school is, better, or, in some ways they're getting better opportunities. So just, show people in my community, our school, that's, you can do everything you want to do right here. So that was important for us, win, lose, or draw from a competitive standpoint. Again, just, blessed that we was able to, be able to be competitive and do the things that we do well and be successful. But again, like you said, we feel like it's a missed opportunity, for all people involved, us, my players, everybody.
How do the kids feel about the whole thing? Because you had a little bit of a break there. You didn't play for about a good solid, 2 weeks or so?
Well, we actually just had 1 week of bye. Well,
okay, 1 week.
Yeah, we had 1 week off of bye, and then we played Garfield. So, again, like you said, you're right, 2 weeks because we didn't play a full game, but we still were practicing and preparing. So, we ended up having a bye the very next week and then having to play Garfield after that. So, again, probably a little bit of a blessing from a standpoint where, you didn't play, but we would have much rather had the opportunity to finish because we still practiced all week, preparing to play the game.
As you go through the Cardinal district schedule and the teams that you were, slated to play as far as in your area, you beat the Garfields, the Forest Parks, a bunch of these teams are scrolling across our ticker here, Woodbridge, so forth. You did have another game at the end of the year, St. Michael, the Archangel, which I know you talked about in your post-game pressure. Pretty cool to have that at the end of the year as sort of a springboard towards the postseason. What were you finding out that was different about this team? You mentioned you don't have to distinguish this team from, the 2022 team. What were you finding out that was unique or different about this brand of team as you were gearing up for the playoffs as opposed to last year and other Freedom teams you've had?
Well, again, I thought this year, we were going to be a little bit more physical up front on the offensive line because we returned so many guys. Also, just defensively, I was excited, where all four linebackers 2022 were first-time starters. Coming into this year, they're second-year starters. So I think you saw a huge jump in experience and play for them. And then, like you said, on offense, again, all the skill guys are bigger, faster, stronger. You come back, you come back with your quarterback that's been there, done that, knows everything. So, again, it's just all the parts, were there to continue to be successful. It allowed us to be a lot more diverse offensively because everybody had done it. So you could add more wrinkles and stuff. You could add in little nuances and didn't have to worry about it being a major setback.
Certainly you begin the playoff journey and you play some teams during that run that you're familiar with again. The Colonial Forge game in the second round. I know there's a little bit of a relationship there. Coach Brown, of course, pretty well. So as you get ready for the region championship and you've got Battlefield and their defense is doing what they're doing, was there much you had to say to this group? Because you've heard about, is there a defense that can maybe contain your offense and what you do on offense? Motivation-wise, is this pretty easy with this group? They kind of were already self-motivated, or did you have to do some button pushing, if you will, to get them fired up to play?
Well, always some button pushing to do. But in the day of social media and Twitter, kids going to find a way to give your kids motivation. Again, like you said, Battlefield had his own motivation. They were the last team we had lost to. There was a lot of that, chatter and banter out there. So, again, that game kind of had its own story behind it. The guys, I knew they was going to be up for it, ready to go. Again, because last time we faced that opponent, we had lost. So we knew that was going to work in our favor. I think you saw that. Again, we didn't feel like, not to Coach Hatfield's fault. He inherited the schedule that they hadn't played, the games that we had played, we knew what we had. We knew the speed that we needed to play at based on our schedule. So again, that game was easy to get up for. Like you said, the guys knew what was at stake. On top of our local newspaper, I mean, they refused to write about us up until now. All they wrote about was Battlefield. So we had already been taking that into account and pretty personal.
Well, and you have multiple players of the year on your offense, and Tristan Evans Trujillo. Is that how you say the last? I think it's the last part is Trujillo. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Jeff Overton Jr., your nephew, the running back, both are players of the year, and they're both setting records. Tristan set the quarterback touchdown career pass record in the state semifinal game against Madison, who was a rematch of last year's championship game. Jeff is now closing on the Prince William County rushing record. So I hear it a lot, and I'm sure you do as a coach, is that, wow, fans out there, I want to run what Freedom runs on offense. They spread it out. They do this, they do that. It's not that simple. You guys make it look easy as far as how you execute and the way it functions. So without giving away all the secrets to success, the keys to it, what's the biggest thing that you've emphasized to your assistant coaches? Because you not only, you got to coach kids, coach your assistant coaches, and they run what you run. What's the biggest point of emphasis in having the success you do on offense to not have a let up? Because what astonishes me most is not that you set the single season scoring record, not that you have these individuals making great records, but you have everybody eating. You had, as I mentioned in our NFHS broadcast with Andy Hayes last weekend, I think you have 5 different guys that account for over 200 catches, which speaks to how you spread the wealth. So they can't key on just Overton. You got Juju Preston, you got Cam Courtney, you got Aaron Dunkey, all these guys. But what's the biggest? The consistency. You don't have a let up. You've scored 35 plus in every game, coach. How do you not have a drop off, regardless of who you play? Great, good, not so good, in between. How do you keep that level of consistency and maintain that?
Well, again, football always starts with blocking and tackling. You know what I mean? And you can run whatever offense you want. You got to be able to block. So, again, what our guys are able to do up front, our O-line coaches, Chris Davis, Coach Wheeler, that's the foundation of everything we do. Being able to block multiple fronts. We don't change our blocking scheme every week. We have our rules for whatever we run, and if it worked this week, it worked. If not, we throw it out and we move on to something else. So that's allowed us to have continued success. Again, then, you return, our quarterback play is, phenomenal. When you got a guy that's been there, that knows it, like the coach, that you can trust to make good decisions regardless of records, regardless of, all the individual guys we got that I'm sure, want the ball all the time. Having a quarterback, a trigger guy that you can trust to do the right things in the offense, it also allows me to be aggressive in my play calling. Again, I don't have to worry about him doing dumb things, turning the ball over, making bad decisions based on, anything but the football side. And then, of course, like you said, just figuring out, what your skilled guys do best and figuring out ways to get the ball to do what they do best. I think, we were able to do that at a high level, but regardless of having good guys, the individual work that goes into it with the quarterback, with the receivers, from the position coaches. Like you said, when you're playing against teams in the state championship, Highland Springs that's just as talented as you, all those things go into it. Just looking at the one-hand catch, Juju had, I remember that week us working on that, Coach Brendan working on that, running the line and just catching the ball with one hand. And if you pay attention, they actually do it as well in a pregame. So, it's a lot of moving parts, but being able to block up front. And then, like you said, man, we was blessed. Our quarterback had a lot of experience considering he had to play. He was a freshman when Davis was hurt, and then, doing last year again. So there's a lot of trust there, and we can get things done. And he kind of understands, through his own football IQ and my understanding what we're trying to get done. There's times where he has to change the blocking based on the front. So, that's stuff that, you wouldn't know if you weren't a part of the process. But again, it allows us to be multiple. And the other thing is having unselfish guys. All those guys are unselfish. Even though they're competitors, they all want the ball. They all want to do things. They're all willing to do whatever it is necessary to win.
And speaking of that one-handed catch, there it is for folks that didn't see it. What a great shot by our photographer there, Ray Williams, at the game. It's up on Virginia Preps. They can check out the entire photo gallery, including not just that, but also Jeff Overton Jr. hurdling folks, as you see that there. I take myself out of the picture for but you can see some of those great pictures he got. And mentioned we saw Coach Overton a little while ago. There's the nephew, and then there's Coach Overton as they got the trophy later. But I want to go back to we'll get to that one-handed catch and the plays that both Preston and Overton made. I've said this early in the broadcast, Coach, during the game, and you're so right about the blocking and tackling, because Walter Hughes, who's listed, I think, at 6 foot 270, he looks a whole heck of a lot bigger than that, by the way, according to the roster booklet we were given. I mean, he was mauling guys up front. And we look at Freedom, and we say they're throwing the ball. They have so many playmakers are scoring. But you ran on the Highland Springs defense. It was the most points they've given up in 10 years for over 400 yards in the game. And certainly Jeffrey Overton Jr., who's a special talent, was a big part of that. But you had other guys carry the football. In addition to him, your quarterback, Tristan Evans. You also had Cam Courtney. But the physicality part is a very, very big deal to all of that. Are you not hearing me, Coach? Did you lose me? Then you're pointing up here. If you lost some volume here. No, if you lost me here. Oh, we unmuted you. Let's see if are you muted? There you go. Hold on here. See if we got let's see here. We lost some volume. Let's see if Coach is back here for some reason. We lost him on the hang tight here. I don't know if he's got me or not. Hang on.
Absolutely. Like you said, being able to block, man, and run the football is always a plus. Again, if you can run the ball, again, it allows you to be aggressive, because, at any time you get hand the ball to one of those guys and get 4 or 5 yards. Like you said, Walter and those guys, Big Juju, Bussy, Jonah, Maury, they were dominant Saturday in the game at all times. So, again, it can't be said enough. Again, you can do all the flash around it. Being able to block is what ultimately the game going to come down to.
How do you keep everybody's ego in check? Because you have a quarterback who's now the all-time touchdown pass record holder. But if he walked around Woodbridge, he's probably well known. But he walks around a state. He's not a big ballyhooed recruit. We can talk about his recruiting in a second as far as any schools in the picture with him. But he's been very efficient. He's added elements to his own game. You got a receiver going to Clemson, and one day he can be your go-to guy. One day he can be just another guy. Jeff Overton can run for 200, 300 plus, or you can go a game where he doesn't touch the ball. I mean, you have so many weapons, and it'd be easy to say, let's be selfish, want more. How have they all bought in and not gotten away from the team concept and try to make it bigger than them? Has that at all been a challenge for you, or did you nip it right away?
Well, I mean, I don't want to say something like I nipped it, like I had to yell at them. They're all competitors, so everybody's going to want to affect the outcome. The good thing with most of those guys, besides Tristan, is they play defense. So they get an opportunity to affect the game in other ways. Now, the receivers always joke amongst each other, who got how many touchdowns. Jeff, luckily, is the type of running back. He can affect the game, whether he's running or catching passes, because really he usually only, got, 10 to 14 carries a game. So, he's not selfish, but then again, he can also catch passes. And then again, like you said, everybody is a threat is what allows us to be very good. And I think they realize that themselves. It's not an ego check thing, because they all have their days, as you would expect as competitors, but they keep the main thing in sight. You know what I mean? So, again, there's games where guys get frustrated. They want the touchdown, or they rather, do this or do that. But they keep the main thing in sight, the main goal. So that shows a lot of maturity. So, again, it really not a matter of me getting them in check by having to yell at them. It's them coming together as a group and understanding whatever we got to do to win the game, we're willing to do. And they definitely showed that Saturday.
All right, be honest with me, Coach. A few more minutes, we'll let you run. We appreciate you coming on for this edition of On the Hash with Hatfield. Let me ask you as far as the – we lost you again here a second. Hold on one, Coach. We'll get this figured out. All right, we've got Coach Overton back, having some technical difficulties, but we appreciate him for a few more minutes here. Be honest with me now, Coach. Beginning of the year, we saw Freedom and Highland Springs be on the same side of the bracket, state semifinals. They changed it. The classification, the regions, I should say, got together and changed it. How much did it kind of pique your interest, your guys, your staff, as far as, all right, they're defending state champs, we're defending state champs. We might settle this thing at UVA now for the championship as opposed to the semifinal round. And you know what a great program Lauren Johnson has. And this is nothing against Madison, Battlefield, other great teams around Nova, South County, fill in the blank, like Braddock, those schools. But you knew this was going to be kind of the ultimate measure, knowing what they've done, what your team has done, and kind of best versus best, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it's something I refused to acknowledge until we got there. Even the week before, my AD, people in my school, my parents kept asking me about accommodations and arrangements for the state championship, and I just refused to make any until we win the first game. So, it piques your interest as a competitor, what everybody perceives as the two best teams, but you got to prove that too. And I'm sure Lake Braddock, Thomasdale, Manchester, Battlefield, Colonial Forwards weren't ready to concede that we were the two best teams. So, obviously as a competitor, you look at it, you say, coaches, you talk about it. But again, you can't forget what happened in between then and there.
For sure. Now, you go into this game. It's funny. Our prediction was 35-27. It was almost right on the button there. It ended up being that for three quarters. You ended up winning it 42-34. Anything in the game at all surprise you as far as what played out? And you had to be super thrilled with what your defensive guys did as Highland Springs was coming back. You had some key plays throughout this game. Shakai Jackson Hughes with a big pick six. Cam Courtney had a big pick. You got some timely stops, so you needed knowing that would be crucial, having so many guys going both ways, right?
Always. And the thing is, like you said, I felt like we were being dominant on defense. They got a punt return, and then they got, the quarterback scramble. They got the block punt. So I felt like the kicking game let us down more than the defense. I was actually impressed with the defense and how well we were able to stop the run for almost the entire game. Again, I felt like watching film from Highland Springs before, that in this game they would run the quarterback more, and they did. So this week during practice, we had a separate scout book for quarterback run plays, and it ended up being what ended up happening. So, I was very impressed with the defense. Nothing that I didn't suspect. I knew we would have success on offense. It's just a matter of, like you said, how the defense is going to hold up, and we always try to start fast, no matter what.
264 yards and 2 touchdowns on 31 carries for Jeff Overton, the hurdle. Has this young fella done anything to impress you yet this year? Because I know you all have a high standard. You, his dad, he's starting to reach a new territory now, Coach.
Yeah, man, like you said, he's impressive every time out. Again, another kid that does it without a lot of nonsense, does what you ask him, has a good attitude 90% of the time. And again, like you said, we joked about it, during the Thanksgiving holidays, man. He's probably the best combination of all of us. What I had, Jeff had, Howard, Dion had. He's probably all of it, combined.
Well, it's funny. In the booth, we thought it was him at first, and then the stat sheet told us it was Cam that threw the pass, and then he told us in the press conference both of them came. No, it was Jeff that threw. It wasn't the prettiest of spirals, but hey, he got the job done. He found Carlton Juju Preston on the play, and I imagine that was sitting in the bag for you all year long, wasn't it? You had something dialed up where, you win this game, you score 40-plus points, and the all-time touchdown pass record holder, which you can talk about Tristan here in a second, who also made some key plays to begin the game, some with his feet, did not throw a touchdown pass. So the irony of how you won this game is fascinating to me, that you did it without having to throw a touchdown pass. You ran for 400-plus. You were physical on the springers. And, you said something I thought, too, in the post-game press that was so true. Highland Springs always seems to have as many, if not more, athletes than everybody else, but you guys are able to match them even without the depth in terms of number of bodies, the quantity that they have. You had the quality, and they came through when they needed it.
Yeah, and like you said, it's, again, man, part of, being unselfish and us willing to win how we have to. The crazy thing is the week before, Jeff threw one of the ugliest passes I've ever seen in my life versus Madison. We practiced it more this week, but you was there. If his daddy can win a state championship playing quarterback, as terrible he was at throwing, we okay taking a couple of chances with Jeff throwing the football. And like you said, it's just really us being in that defense. When Tristan was in, they were laying back, playing off, kind of not letting us get behind them. Trying to make us slow walk the ball down the field. When we got in our monster set, the corners came up, played press. As I said, again, that's just not realistic to think you're going to be able to do versus those guys. Had they done the same thing, when Tristan was in, we would have been just as aggressive. It's just, I think, the respect to the receivers and to what they thought, Tristan could do passing. But again, like you said, that's what makes us special. Any way we got to do it, we can get it done, and we're willing to do it that way.
Well, last two, Freedom, we could talk with you all day. I'm sure we'll follow up here at some point in the offseason to look at the 2024 Freedom Eagles, probably 2025 too. But Coach, you have a lot of unsung heroes on this team. You have certainly some marquee names that we've talked about with Preston, who's committed to Clemson. Jeff's got a slew of offers, and that list is only going to grow, obviously. I know we got Ohio State here in the last week, and some others that are returning for you. But kind of shout out for me some of the seniors you can, some of the unsung heroes, the guys that you will lose, where they might be headed to college and what they've meant to your team. Because on defense alone, the Jewel Harrises, the Isaiah Harpers, the EJ Reeds, not enough guys probably get enough of the limelight. And you mentioned some of those blockers up front, like the Fugas, and whose older brother was a stud for you guys. And obviously we talked about Walter Hughes. They are a key, reason why you've won back-to-back here and been so strong and dominant these last 2 years.
I mean, absolutely. One of my guys, Ticket, man, number 8, Jewel Harris, we're going to miss him, man. He's been dominant the last 2 years. Just last year, TJ was doing it as well, man. Not just what he brings to the game every week, his energy, but just miss having him around. As a coach, sometimes you need kids that make you laugh and, make lighten the mood for everybody. And Ticket, Jewel Harris has been that. Like you said, other guys that don't get some of the shine. We got a guy, Raymond Rodriguez, who played in this game, number 21, man, just a kid that done everything we asked him for 4 years. It was never a me guy. It's always about everybody else. The things he does for us on special teams. I don't feel like EJ is unsung, man. EJ has earned everything he got. But if I had to, those guys stepped in and filled some big shoes. And Kelly Timone, our nose guard, juggernaut, man, first-year starter, turned out to be a really good ball player for us. And Aaron Duncan, unfortunately, got hurt in the final, but I thought he had really elevated his game on the defensive side of the ball throughout the playoffs. The rest of the guys, man, Tristan, Courtney, EJ, man, they do what they always do. Walter, Big Juju, man, they are who they are for a reason. And that's because they always show up.
Well, you're definitely winning a lot of ball games and keep turning guys out to the next level, whether it's the TJ Bush to Liberty, Kendall Bannister to an Ohio, EJ Reed to Wake Forest, and you got obviously some guys coming back, some more that we're moving on to the next level. So to finish up with you, what's next for you? How are you going to spend your off season, your winter, your holiday time, as you prepare for the spring and then the gearing up for the 2024 season? I know the conversations and debates and discussions will rage on. Is this Freedom team the best team? Is it better than 2022? And can 2024 be better than 2022 and 2023? So what's your answers to all those things that get posed your way, and how will you spend the holidays as you bask in the glory? But that the off season, there's really not a long off season the way you guys have to work, right?
Yeah, and there's no offseason for me because I got girls basketball. But, again, I told you before, this team did some things better than last year's team. Again, like you said, I know the points weren't there, but that's because, again, we had 3 games where they were running the clock in the second quarter. You know what I mean? So we really were limited in time and what we could do at times. But this group, I told them once they won again, they got to go down as the best. I thought this year for sure we had more depth than we had last year on both sides of the ball. I'm not going to put the pressure on the guys yet about being better than this group. This senior group has done something that's phenomenal. There's a lot to live up to. I hope that it trickles down throughout our program and that we have this opportunity again. But again, man, like you said, they've done something special. It's amazing to watch them do it. But like you said, we'll be right back at it after the winter break, lifting, doing all the things we have to do. Some guys came. We went down there and played that great Thomasdale girls basketball team. And some guys from Highland Springs was there just to make sure they saw me get my butt whooped at something. And they told me, but we laughed about it and joked. So, we on the basketball, on to, getting all the recruiting stuff done and, looking forward to gearing it up again.
Well, it's funny because I'm sure I lied on one sense. I didn't mean to lie to you, but I have one more thing to bring up to you. You are double duty as girls basketball coach too at Freedom, so you're a busy man in the winter, like I am. The overlap, which drives me crazy. We need to. I'm a big believer, Coach, on how you feel about it. And this is, I don't know how we would tweak with the playoffs. Maybe you start a week earlier, you get rid of the buys or something. I don't like going to 4. I think 6 is the right number as opposed to 8 per regions. You give the 1 and 2 seeds buys because it gives you a bye week, gives you something to play for to get a top 2 seed in your region. But I would like to see us end on Thanksgiving weekend. It gives us more time for basketball. We don't have to do all this overlap, and you figure out the winter and spring schedules right. But I'm going to get asked this question, so I'll pose it to you here because I know the schedules are set for next year. But everybody's going to say they always want to see a tournament of champions in basketball or in football. Take your top 6 classes. So everybody's going to say who wins the epic Maury Freedom matchup. I know you guys probably can't play next year. Perhaps you can in the next cycle, but something perhaps you guys could discuss or be open to for a scrimmage in the future, dare we say? Is that something you want to address or comment on? Or
Yeah, absolutely, man. What people don't know, we actually, our staffs, me and Coach Parker and Coach Preve are actually good friends. We talked this week, up to the state championship. You know what I mean? Okay. I reached out to them. They answered last year. We tried to make a game happen.
Oh, I think we lost you for a second, Coach. Hang tight.
All
right, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
What people don't know is me, Coach Parker, Coach Bree. We even talked the week of the state championship, man. There's some friends that I gained in this profession this year. I reached out to them about playing last year, and they did answer back. The dates just didn't work.
Sure.
So if it's something we can do, I would like to set up, and you can help me, man. Like that second scrimmage, have like all the good teams from 757, North Virginia, and just do something where it's that second scrimmage like a game.
Well, listen, we do our podcast from the Plex. How about I'll put it out here for all the public to comment on this. We could do like a little jamboree scrimmage day. It could be at the Sportsplex, wherever across Hampton Roads or any location. It can be 757 or beyond, but do it. And maybe we'll figure out some kind of proceed charity thing that can go to not just the programs that are involved, but some charity out there as well. We could figure out something that'd be a good cause in addition to just letting these kids get to play against good competition, good little friendly event. So it's something I'd like to see like us do with our Virginia Preps basketball classic. Unfortunately for football, you can't really do that as much because it's hard with the schedules being locked in, but it'd be cool to see something like that happen.
Absolutely, man. I'm willing and want to set something up for sure. Something we can talk about, but again, like you said, again, great teams, great matchups. I said it all the time. It doesn't matter if you class 6, 5, 4, 3, maybe 2 and 1 sometime. Mm-hmm. The best teams are the best teams. You know what I mean? Some of those guys are lower classification than us, but they got more players than us. That's just our school demographic. We're Division 6 based on the numbers in the school, but we only pull from a third of our, enrollment. So the best teams are the best teams. Again, so it's always going to be that competitive nature. They want to find out who people are going to compare, but I'm the same way, but it's a mutual respect, man, between me, the Maury coaches, Coach Blunt at Phoebus, even me and him had some conversations this year. It's a mutual respect, man, to all the guys doing it at a high level.
Absolutely. Well, awesome job by you and your program, your staff and players and everybody there. I know the Freedom-Woodbridge community is so excited to go back-to-back, 29 straight wins and counting for Coach Overton's Eagles, who are soaring to new heights, back-to-back state championships. They beat Madison at ODU in 2022, and they finished it up here in 2023 with a victory over Highland Springs at UVA. Happy holidays to you, Coach, and a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'm sure we'll catch up in 2024. Go enjoy the celebration in the rings and everything as you bask in the glory before the season starts for football, and I know you got basketball that'll keep you mighty busy, so enjoy it.
Again, I appreciate you. Everything you do, supporting those athletes everywhere. Anybody watching this, man, support the kids. Go like, subscribe to everything Mr. Hatfield got going on. He's been doing it for a long time for our kids, man. Go like, subscribe, send it to family members, run the numbers up.
There you go. Thank you so much, Coach. The check's in the mail. I'm only joking about that part. I wish I could give you a check in the mail. And happy holidays to you, and we'll catch up again soon.
All right, brother.
That's Coach Darryl Overton of the Freedom Eagles. We'll come back, take a time out here and hear from some of our sponsors at the Plex. You're watching On the Hash with Hatfield. Stay tuned. More to come.
Well, it's everybody's favorite time of year again. Time to prepare to make your annual donation to that infernal revenue service. So get off your W-2 and call John Maynard at John's Tax Service. 455-6763.
wish I was out there.
Let's unretire.
Why not?
Randy Moss.
Dan Marino? You all right? Hey, Grandpa! Grandpa? I still got it.
22. 22.
Here we again, number 13. Let's see. Hey. I need that senior discount. That's the game. Mr. Marino, you mind if I take a selfie? Thank you.
I'm good right here, bro.
Unretirement? Who'd be dumb enough to do that?
So that was the game-winning field goal. It's on the hash with the Hatfield as we finish up this edition for 2023. Like, share, and subscribe to our Virginia Beach Sportsplex YouTube channel. 7-6 win for Galax. Essex on Yandel Vera's 42-yard field goal that bounced off the crossbar and plopped over. You read the recap on VirginiaPreps.com from our great writer Robert Anderson about that. And that would ordinarily be the most dramatic championship win. You had certainly Freedom to hold on against Highland Springs. Great effort from the Springers. Kudos to Coach Darryl Overton. Thank him for coming on the show this week. Also want to thank Dyrri McCain of the Maury Commodores for coming on the show. They also got it done. Holding on against Stonebridge, exacting revenge from a couple years ago at Old Dominion. Great job by Liberty Christian going undefeated, and Radford unblemished as well. But the most dramatic win was at Liberty University in Lynchburg, where the Phoebus Phantoms prevailed over the Salem Spartans, who scored a touchdown and a game-tying two-point conversion and turned an 8-point deficit into a 14-all tie with 58 seconds to go. But it would be a 10th championship in 22 years for the Phantoms, as former state champion player Jeremy Blunt leads them to a three-peat. As the head man, what a job by the freshman quarterback, Maricus Banks, launching an 86-yard touchdown. You got to see it to believe it. Keontae Gray hauling it in with 1 second to go. Banks, the number was sacked on the play before, and somehow he got enough time to get it off. He got a 6-yard line basically when he's losing the football. And we're so glad to be by Jeremy Blunt, head football coach of the Phantoms, our 757 Saturday Sports Talk program. He's going to join us around about 8:30 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. So synchronize your watch and set your alarm. And they got a good canned food drive going on at Phoebus High School, I think starting at 9 a.m. on Saturday as well. Go support the Phantoms as they are the gold standard. I know it's a couple weeks ago, it probably made some people mad. Riverhead is the gold standard in high school football, and they were 7 straight state championships, smaller level than Phoebus. But, man, what a job by Phoebus to get it done. That defense, which was terrific in this game yet again. They held Peyton Lewis, the Tennessee commit, to 84 yards rushing on 27 attempts. He ran for 373 and 4 TDs the week before. Nathaniel Anthony and Anthony Reddick combining for 22 tackles. Reddick headed to Maryland. So there you have it. We do want to thank, as we close out this edition of the podcast, all the great viewers and fans and coaches and players and supporters of this all season long, along with the sponsors from Chicho's Pizza with our Chicho's Pizza 757 Football Player of the Week, and Bruce Pearl from Virginia Trophy, and his great support, along with the head people from Hometown Sports Productions and Cova Sports with Chuck Thornton and Nick Senti, to the likes of Dennis McEwen and many others behind the scenes. Jack Lowe, I want to thank him. Also Carter Davis, so many that helped us do this podcast weekly for you all year long, 15 weeks. It was a blast. It was a joy. We'll be back with periodic episodes throughout the off season. We'll have some interviews. We'll do some things. It won't be on a weekly basis every Thursday and Friday like we've been here Thursday through regular season in the last couple of rounds for the playoffs on Fridays. But we will keep you posted with things on our Virginia Beach Sportsplex YouTube channel and on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and VirginiaPreps.com. So I want to thank everyone again for tuning in all year long, and we'll be talking with you again in 2024, Lord willing. Have a happy holiday, a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year to everyone out there. You've been watching On the Hash with Hatfield. Again, stay tuned to our Virginia Beach Sportsplex YouTube channel. Smash that subscribe button, and we always appreciate the word of mouth. We can do this for you out there, all the football athletes and sports fans. Word of mouth is a big way of getting us to grow. So tell everyone about what we're doing over there at the Plex and beyond across the state of Virginia. And we will talk to you next time when the calendar turns to 2024. Take care, everyone.